What's up, y'all? This is the Waterproof MC, chilling with my brother, Mikey T, the movie star. Lights, camera, rhythm.
Today, I have a very special guest. I make it my business to find artists with a different type of pen game. And today's guest pen game is different. He was around when lyrics actually mattered. He was around when you couldn't have whack lyrics. Kass, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell me about how life was for you growing up in Carson, California?
Um, well, let me make put an asterisk there. So I've always had as far as I can remember, we always lived in Carson, but I grew up in Watts. I went to school there. I socialized there up until the middle of the seventh grade, eighth grade. So yeah, Watts is Watts. Any Watts riots is is infamous for the Watts riots. It's considered the east side of LA. It's the ghetto. It's the rough part of LA is what's considered. Um, uh, so I had a balance. I was able to, I lived in Watts, but then my parents worked and they would pick us up after work around 5 p.m. and then we go to Carson and it's a suburb. Um, Ironically enough, going to school in Watts was less traumatic for me than starting to go to middle school in Carson, which yeah, um, yeah, Carson was middle class, um, very, very mixed. It was about a 20% white, 20% black, 20% Mexican. I think combined, both families made over $100,000, which meant a lot back then. You know what I'm saying? Two-parent homes, and just in general, uh, you know, combined incomes of over $100,000. A lot of two-story houses. So yeah, we were kind of considered the rich kids of the area, the suburb. But kids are assholes. So I was like I said, I was more traumatized going to eighth grade. Like, well, these fucking kids are fucking insane. Like, running through pissing in the showers. Just I'm like, who the fuck raises these weird fucking kids? So I didn't have that type of shit didn't fly in Watts. You know what I'm saying? I was like, we're more civilized than because my father was all, he didn't like the ghetto at the time, Watts and all that. He wanted his kids to go to school in the burbs, and then the burbs was a fucking ridiculous. Little assholes were stranger than any more drugs than I had seen. I was like, these niggas is worse. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I had to ask you about the area because when you say Compton, everybody knows Compton. When you say Beverly Hills, everyone knows about it, or Slauson, we heard about it. But Carson, it's like we don't know, we don't hear about that spot much here on the East Coast. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you could explain that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I explained it pretty good on the first couple of albums. Carson is literally the sister city of Compton. It's next to Compton. You can't. It basically, essentially, you can't get from Compton. You have to go through Carson and get to Long Beach. We're the city north of Long Beach, southwest of Compton. That's what Carson is. It's just when Dr. Dre found Snoop, they said fuck us. They just jumped right over us and promoted, which they should. I'm not mad. So we got left out of the shout outs.
Another thing I want to ask you, the West Coast is heavily gang affiliated, Blood and Crips banging on wax. Did you come out during that time, when everyone was banging on wax?
When that album came out,
Yeah.
I was a kid. I was what we call a non-factor. I didn't matter. I was 8, 9, 10. so we call that being a non-factor. Like you didn't hit puberty. You weren't in the streets. You wasn't outside. So yeah, but I remember it. It was legendary. I grew up, you know, in the '80s, late '80s. Like it was active. Like gangbanging was at an all-time high. So it was going down when all that stuff. Pretty much like out of everybody on those banging on wax out on that album, I believe like 95% of them are dead. Long time ago died. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they was gangbanging. It was just crazy. Yeah, man. I was I don't even think I was able to buy a tape back that at that point. Somebody else had it. You just hear it. I didn't even really process what was happening when that record came out. Really, yeah.
Can you tell me about when you first started rapping? Like what was it made you want to first get involved, in music and actually put your words on tape?
Good question. I was a moderate fan, a consumer. I would say a moderate consumer. Like music was something I enjoyed, but I wasn't like I gotta have music. I just wasn't that kind of person growing up. Um, but I think at some point around hearing "You Must Learn," KRS One, uh, hearing and maybe kind of work backwards. I had heard everything else, I liked it all, but KRS One was the first person that kind of, for me, and maybe where I was at as a person, I was already kind of questioning what I was being taught in school, questioning religion. I was self-actualizing early. And so things that I was researching, I never heard anybody say that in raps about you know, who invented the saddle. Black person created the air conditioning, created the stoplight. Like I didn't even learn that in high school. I was having to go get alternative information to even learn that. So to hear so to hear somebody in a rap song, I never heard nobody in no jazz song. I never heard that in no rock and roll song. I never heard that in a fucking nothing. Never heard no form of music where somebody gave me historical information, factual, that not even my high school or not wasn't even in high school, whatever, junior high, whatever the fuck I was in, middle school, or maybe I was in high school. I just had never heard of somebody say that shit. And I was just like, this is different. And I always, wanted to, we all rap. Everybody sits around. You listen to your favorite songs. You repeat after them. You might freestyle with your friends. You're drinking. You're smoking. Seriously thinking like, hey, this is something I kind of want to try to do and record something. It probably was that. The catalyst would probably be KRS One.
So who was it that told you you're nice? You know what I mean? Who actually said that to you? In other words, how old were you when you realized that you were talented?
I was first person that told me I was nice and that made a difference in my life. Because most of my friends didn't understand. I my vocabulary was just bigger than most of my friends. Just because my parents talk how they talk. I don't know. I just picked it up from them. But Battle Cat. So I was probably 15 acting like I was 17 when I met Battle Cat, DJ Battle Cat, that produces for Snoop Dogg and, obviously legendary Battle Cat. So he discovered me and my friend Bird at about 15-ish. And he pulled us under his wing. He had an artist and that got a record deal. His name was Box. And they kind of let us be the dancers while helping us advance. Like Bird was a producer and I was a rapper, and they were helping us get our music together while we were like the little dancers on the side. So it was cool. It was cool as fuck. He looked out. Him and Box. Salute to Box. Another asterisk. First person who told me I was dope was my friend, and we were playing dominoes. Probably 4 or 5 of us playing dominoes, and no, because Battle Cat had to hear it first. The second person that told me I was dope with my own songs was my friend. He didn't know it was me. I just played the demo that I made with Battle Cat and Wino, who produced all the Coolio stuff. And he heard my demo, and Curtis from Patchwork Studios in Atlanta. So Kurt was my friend, and then I played him the 4 or 5 songs I had done with Battle Cat and Wino, and then he's like, "You dope." He didn't know it was me at first. He's like, "Who the fuck is this?" And I was like, it's me. And he's like, yo, this is the dopest rapper. It was awesome. So, yeah. I'm sorry. Keep going.